Today on Seahawks Forever, powered by BetUS, I simply don't think there's enough discussion around how big a need wide receiver is for the Seattle Seahawks. And I would make the argument that it's a huge need even if DK Metcalf remains on the roster for 2025. So over the next couple months, I'll be diving into this wide receiver class. It's a good one, not as good as the last couple of years, but that speaks more to those classes than this one. And while the top guys were not in Mobile, I still got to see a bunch of that second and third tier, lots of talent down there, including one prospect who reminded me of a certain dynamic playmaker that Clint Kubiak had a lot of fun with last year in New Orleans. I'll be taking a closer look at Utah State's Jalen Royals coming up today on the show.
Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
Just a couple of days left to get in on the last game of the NFL season, right? There's a certain game this Sunday in New Orleans, Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl. If you sign up for a new account today with BetUS, they'll still give you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit, 125% on your second and third, up to $2,000. They also have new casino games, if you're into that, with a 200% sign-up bonus, up to $2,000 on your first deposits. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notification of future episodes, and stick around until the end, where I've teased it a little bit. You may have heard the gist of this, but a major announcement concerning this channel and some big changes coming a couple of weeks from now. Some news today. Leonard Williams had his contract restructured. Didn't have to agree to it. I almost said agreed to a restructure. But most of those things are written into the contract. The team doesn't have to have the players sign off on it. But it cleared $14.1 million in cap space. So the bookkeeping purge begins. And that was one of the easiest moves. We'll take a deeper dive into the salary cap here coming up in the next couple of weeks. But whenever I've done any of the exercises this offseason and how the Seahawks could clear a bunch of cap space, I was able to do it without even touching Williams' contract, but that was an easy lever to pull. He's a guy that you want around, so moving some dead money into the future doesn't really impact the future of the roster in a negative way, not the way he performed last year. So step one of many to clear some cap space so the Seahawks can get some things done this offseason. So I mean it when I say that wide receiver is a big need, and I don't think it's being discussed enough. It comes up, and some of you will bring it up, but more in terms of like, get a guy late and just, see what you can come up with. And here's why, because we all agree, I think, as much as we love him to death, Tyler Lockett's not going to be on this roster this coming season. Just doesn't make sense at that cap dollar. I had thought he would probably, in a very similar manner to how Doug Baldwin retired, that's what would go down here. The Seahawks would, agree not to go after any bonus money, and he'd be able to kind of ride off into the sunset as a retirement, but the Seahawks technically would release him and clear up quite a bit of cap space. That's going to have to happen. Now, Tyler kind of threw a curveball at us when he said late last season that he still wants to play again, in which case probably would make a whole bunch of sense down in Las Vegas, don't you think? But wherever he ends up, if he does, if there's still a market for his services, that leaves the Seahawks with, presumably, Jackson Smith-Njigba, who just had a massive breakout second season, and DK Metcalf. And, there's still discussion, and I'm going to continue having it here because there's still enough buzz out there and enough smoke, legitimate reporting that teams may take shots at DK this year, may try to convince the Seahawks to trade him. And what I have said it again on Twitter last night, is I want DK on this roster. You can make it work. You can sign him to an extension, lower his cap hit, really help put the Seahawks in an even more favorable cap situation this year. But there are those who think that we'd be better off moving off of him. And I have maintained that, look, if a team comes along, calls John Schneider, makes a good enough offer, it might make sense to him, right? There are reasons from a pragmatic standpoint, a football standpoint, to move DK Metcalf. But even if he's on the roster, for the purposes of this exercise, still a huge need. Who's your wide receiver 3? Jake Bobo. Very specialized skill set, very role specific. can't do everything, right? He's not an explosive, dynamic playmaker. Then you get to like Derek Young. We keep waiting for him to pop. You know, the athletic profile is exciting, but he hasn't translated that into anything. You know, they tried to find sort of that shifty yards after the catch guy with D. Eskridge. That obviously didn't work out. We know that they met with Malachi Corley before the draft last year, so that was something they were looking for there as well. It's something they don't have on the roster. And I think there's a lot of it in this draft, is a guy that can create and a guy that can be dangerous after the catch and that you can shift around in different roles. And when I went back and looked at, especially the first couple of weeks before injuries ravaged that Saints team, what Clint Kubiak was doing with Rashid Shaheed was pretty remarkable. And he was off to a flying start, 3 touchdowns, 17 and a half yards per catch. And he was everywhere. He'd use him out of the slot. He would use him in the backfield and motion him out. He ran some deep routes. Obviously, he had the speed to take the top off, but he also tried to get the ball to him in space closer to the line of scrimmage and let him do his thing. And as I said, there were a bunch of guys like that in Mobile: Tez Johnson, Oregon, Jalen Noel, Iowa State. But Jalen Royals is a guy that going into the week, I wasn't that familiar with, but noticed him right away. And the reason being is how differently he's built. So I'm going to show you some of the individual Senior Bowl stuff where he's running routes against DBs and one-on-ones. And you can see it. You can see how thick he is in his lower half, right? And when I first saw that, I thought, well, that's an interesting body type. I like it. You can do some things with that if the athletic profile matches it. And I just assumed that it wouldn't. And even on that first day, I didn't think he looked explosive. But then the longer I was there, I heard a lot of chatter about how, especially in the press box during the game on Saturday, and he only had 1 target in the game. I heard a lot of like, he's still not 100% healthy. Well, Jalen Royals only played 7 games last year because he hurt his foot. And he was injured and missed the second half of the season. Despite that, was still really productive. And the fact that he showed up in Mobile, I think, is to his credit. 5'11", 210 pounds. That's his official weigh-in and measurements that they took at the Shrine Bowl. So this is accurate. You know, you can never really trust how schools list these guys. But you could see from that video how thick and powerful he was. But my assumption that maybe that wouldn't translate to explosive speed may be proven wrong in a couple of weeks. A couple of scouting services, including NFL Draft Buzz, are expecting him to run sub 4.4 in the 40, and that helps explain some of these numbers. Started out at Georgia Military Academy before transferring to Utah State. Took a year for him to get his feet under him, but then the last 2 seasons, very productive. 126 catches, over 1,900 yards, 21 touchdowns, including 15 of those in 2023. That's a school record. Very consistent. Both years' production, 15.2 yards per catch. In the top 20 each year in yards after the catch. And what's crazy about that in 2024 is he finished the season 12th in the country with wide receivers that had 50 targets or more in yards after the catch. And he only played 7 games because of that foot injury. And so that's when you start to get excited. And I started digging deeper into this guy. So he's going to run a 4.38 at the combine. Okay, then he's going to shoot up draft boards. Because when you look at the tape, and, you know, I apologize for the god-awful blue turf. Man, I hate that. And I've seen it in person. I've actually shot a game there when I was involved with Houston Nuts Coaches Show back in the day. And it makes it really, really hard to get good color on your camera with the white balance and the way that works. Anyway, tangent aside, he had a massive game. 9 catches, over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the 2 long ones that you see. He's an explosive player. And even though Utah State really didn't do this with him, they played him primarily on the outside. Only about 20% of his targets came from the slot, or he only lined up in the slot about 20% of the time. But, and they didn't do this, but I can see him being that Rashid Shaheed type role. You could easily line this guy up in the backfield and then motion him out and do those kinds of things with him. Use him in bunch formations. He's a guy that's just physically, it looks like from what I saw during the week, like a willing blocker, a capable blocker, but he's powerful enough to break tackles. Here's my comp. He's 10 pounds heavier, but the same size, same height. They both measured in at 5'11", one at the Combine, one at the Senior Bowl. One measured in or weighed in at 199 at his Combine, and Royals is 210. I see some Golden Tate in him because of how physical and how sturdily he's built, and how I think that can help complement this wide receiver group. Now, right now, and in the mock draft I did Monday, I took him at 50 in the second round, and that might seem a little high. He's not in anyone's top 50, but I've seen him in top 100s, and he's kind of in that 60 to 80 range. But I think, and again, he wasn't, the things I heard from scouts there, he wasn't 100% healthy. And so even as impressive as he looked to me during the week, and certainly on tape, I think that's going to be a big check mark when it comes to John Schneider, right? Smart, tough, dependable, that kind of thing that they value. The hammer that they use on their draft board to indicate, loves ball, character, dog. To go to the Senior Bowl when he's not 100% and contribute or participate in everything, I think that says a lot about him. He could have just shown up. He had a solid week. He could have opted out of the game. He didn't. Only had the one target. But I think that's to his credit. And I think he's a really, really exciting player. And so, if you want him in that range, he might not last till the third round. And for those of you who think, well, let's just take a guy later, I think it's a bigger need than that. I really do. There isn't much on the wide receiver market. They're not going to go after the T. Higgins of the world. The wide receiver market's full of, free agent market anyway, is full of reclamation projects, right? You want to take a shot on Deontay Johnson and think you're the team that can, handle his personality issues and his temperament issues. There's not a lot out there other than, as I said, reclamation type projects. I always think there's a need for playmakers. Pete Carroll said it himself. His introductory press conference when he was first hired is he talked all about running the football and being physical and dictating terms and all those things that Mike McDonald has espoused as part of his philosophy. But Pete would also say, and he did on day one, that we need touchdown makers. And so much more attention is going to be paid to JSN and DK in this offense because Kubiak doesn't run as much 3 and 4 wide receiver stuff. He tends to run more 12 and 13 personnel. So there's a better chance that you're going to have 2 tight ends and a heavy dose of JSN and DK, but you need that third guy that you can't, because he will run bunch formations. And there were a lot of things he did, honestly, with Taysom Hill, where Taysom Hill last year, from what I saw on tape, was a lot more than what he had been previously, where he was a tight end / quarterback. Like, he was lining up in the backfield as a fullback, as a tailback, taking carries, running routes out of the backfield. Man, I think Jalen Royals could do a lot of cool stuff. And some of those other sort of shifty slot merchants that I also think would really fit in a complementary role in this offense are just, their body type scares me. Like Tez Johnson, I don't know. Do I have anything that I can show you? Like, here's my my throwback edition autographed bottle of Maker's Mark that, I enjoyed the bourbon, but here's the bottle. Like the top, this part of the bottle, that's like Tez Johnson's calves right there. That's about the width of them. There are some other guys, but Royals was the guy that really stood out to me that was unique, different than the rest of them. There were some taller receivers, Jaden Higgins, Iowa State, Pat Bryant, Clemson, that were pretty impressive down there, but all very similar body styles, very lean, kind of Paul Richardson build, whereas Royals gives you Golden Tate potentially with 10 more pounds of muscle in his lower half. So I like what he offers. All right, gentlemen, coming up Sunday, it is the biggest face-off of the year. Chiefs, Eagles, but also Super Bowl and super balls. Don't let your grooming game get flagged for unnecessary roughness. Introducing the Beard and Balls Bundle from Manscaped, your ultimate grooming MVP. This kit keeps you sharp from face to below the waist. Don't fumble your grooming game. Step up and score big where it matters most. Join the movement trusted by over 12 million men worldwide. Visit manscaped.com right now and use the promo code Seahawks for 20% off plus free shipping. Power starts here. What you get in this bundle is the Beard Hedger for perfecting your playoff beard, and the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra to ensure your below-the-waist grooming game is as sharp as a game-winning pass. Again, be the MVP of your grooming routine with the Beard and Balls bundle from Manscaped. Head to manscaped.com and use the code Seahawks for 20% off plus free shipping. And by now, you should all know how much I love Doer, built for doing. Flagship stores in LA and Denver, but shopdoer.com is where you'll find the best apparel I've ever experienced. I'm a big fan of the Stretch Performance jeans, 20% stretch. These are made with breathable, antibacterial, and sustainable materials. They're incredibly comfortable. They feel like you're wearing joggers, but they're well-built jeans. You can tell from the moment you take them out of the package. Built for doing. They also have joggers and hoodies and premium t-shirts and Henleys. Everything that you would want for any time of year. And right now, they're going to give you 20% off your first order as well if you go to shopdoer.com/forever. That's www.shopdoer.com/forever for 20% off your first order. All right, so I'll be taking a closer look at that wide receiver class as we get closer to the draft. And I promised a major announcement about the show and the channel. First of all, I'll be moving in a couple of weeks. Much bigger move than just switching to another apartment. Going to be taking a break from my career, a much needed break, and focusing solely on this for the next few months, at least through the draft at the end of April. And then we'll see how things sit at the point. But just going to focus on this, see how much I can grow the channel. And part of that is going to be more content and more variety in content for you. First of all, as of March 2nd, I believe, March 3rd, Monday, March 3rd, I'll be switching to a Monday through Friday live format. I'll be announcing the time of those shows. It may not be specifically at the exact same time every day, but I'll make sure it's the same time range every day so that you know when to expect it, Monday through Friday. So the live show will be kind of what you've come to expect from Seahawks Forever. That's where I'll do interviews and deep dives and get to know players and prospects and talk to other content creators and journalists about the Seahawks offseason and looking ahead to the 2025 season, all the things that I've been doing here for the last couple of years. And then outside of that, since I'll have more freedom, more time, there will be more short form content. Videos like this that only take 15, 20 minutes, maybe looking at one particular position group or one particular player or one headline or story, or reacting to a new mock draft that Daniel Jeremiah drops, or a report about a Seahawks player potentially on the move, or the Seahawks maybe taking a look around the league at making a move in trade. Those types of things I'll be able to react to in a more short, kind of dynamic way, be able to react to it immediately. So that's going to happen at the beginning of March. I'm excited about it. I'm terrified by it because I'm stepping away from 6 years of the best job I ever had for the best employer I've ever worked for, and a very, very reliable source of income. They take very, very good care of me there, and always will if and when I come back to the area. And I do plan to. I'm actually going to be spending, I don't know if I mentioned that, I'm going to Arizona for 3 months. I'm going to get some sunshine, recharge the body. That's badly, badly needed, and focus on this stuff. So keep an eye out for that. Best way to do that is hit that bell so that you're always notified when there's new content, and follow me on Twitter at Seahawks Forever. And all that is made possible by all the support that you've shown the channel over the last couple of years and the growth I've been able to achieve. And so really excited to, there are times where I'm frustrated. I just don't have the time to do things on the channel that I want to. And I feel often like I'm just scratching the surface, like it's very tip of the iceberg type stuff. And so there are things that sometimes you guys ask me for, and I just simply don't have time for it. Well, now I will. And so I'm really looking forward to that. Until then, though, I'll be bouncing back and forth, packing boxes, moving stuff around, doing shows, keeping you up to date over the next couple of weeks on anything that should happen. And as we get closer to the combine and right after it, heading into free agency, that's where a lot of things start to happen, because that's when front office executives and GMs can start to talk to agents unofficially. So, yeah, we have that to look forward to over the next couple of weeks. I'm Dan. This is Seahawks Forever. Thank you to BetUS for sponsoring this episode. Till next time, forever and always go Hawks.